Welcome to the DreamViews podcast, episode 6.
Each episode will be covering any and everything revolving around the world of lucid dreaming.
We're your hosts, RareCola
and OpheliaBlue.
This episode, we'll be talking about dry spells, how to get back into lucid dreaming after a break, and how to keep having lucid dreams throughout a hectic life schedule. So, it's been a while since our last podcast. We're now using new technology to record, so hopefully things should sound clearer and generally better. We plan to put these podcasts out more frequently, and we're going to talk later in the podcast about a new Q&A sort of mini podcast off to the side that Canis Lucidus is now doing with OpheliaBlue and myself and PGMs. Podcasts probably aren't going to go back to once a week, but we plan to put them out as much as possible, preferably at least once a month with a mini-sode talking about the task of the month, things that are going on, and generally stuff like that, and we just weave these longer episodes in whenever we can with our schedules. So we're going to start off today with dry spells, and I'll pass it over to Lisa and she can talk about what dry spells are.
Alright, a dry spell basically is anytime you stop lucid dreaming regularly. And this could be a few days or weeks to even years. At this point it may seem better and easier to just give up and wait for them to start up randomly again, but it doesn't hurt to have a way to intentionally get back into your lucid groove. And this couldn't come at a better time, because after one of the techniques that we'll talk about later on how to get lucid dreaming going again is to really just saturate your mind with talking with someone about it. And Jason and I decided to do this podcast the other day, and we've both been having a terrible dry spell, and it just happens to be coincidentally that I did a completely separate podcast with Canis Lucidus, which is posted already in the podcast forum. And just that night of talking to him for like 2 hours about lucid dreaming and recording the podcast, it was like that night, or early that next morning, I had just a huge, vivid, crazy, wake-induced lucid dream. So it's really great timing. So I'm glad we're doing this podcast now, because we can talk about all the different ways that you can combat it. And you'll hear when we get to that part about how I believe that saturating your mind with lucidity is one way to help you.
Yeah, right. Definitely. Okay, so we're going to go in now into talking about how to combat these dry spells. So if you are having a dry spell, these are our kind of techniques that we use personally, and the different things we've heard around the forum that other people use. I mean, there are several ways to go about doing clearing up a dry spell. Some are more subtle, and some are a bit more intense. So, do you want to talk about the first one that we've listed, Lisa?
Sure. Yeah. Like I said before, simply just getting the subject of lucid dreaming back on your mind on a daily basis. And this can be accomplished simply by reading about it, reading about the subject of lucid dreaming, writing in your journal, which is big. If you've slacked off on that, the best time to really get back into it is when you realize, okay, I want to have another lucid dream. It's time to get serious with my journal again. You could reread your own past dreams or another person's journal. And something else that occurred to me lately, if you've been lucid dreaming either or for years and years, but maybe you only started a journal recently, try and remember dreams that you had when you were young, or dreams that you had before you started journaling, and try and remember as many details as you can and write it down. This just really helps you get in tune with your own recall. It'll help boost your recall and everything, and just help you get back into the mindset of your own style of dreaming. And sometimes, again, just enough awareness of the subject of lucidity is enough to kick things back into gear. And
yeah, this is definitely a very good idea, because I think we're just going to talk about our own experiences here as well. And
yeah,
I know for me personally, I love keeping a dream journal, especially a written one, beside my bed, because if I am having one of these dry spells, I can go back into my dream journal, maybe read a lucid dream I had a couple of months ago, and sometimes it even helps me to try and remember all of the feelings of this dream as I'm falling asleep. And you can sometimes even relive that sort of experience and play it out in different ways.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, something that I did, it was even more tiny and subtle than that. And this is when I first joined DreamViews with the intent of learning how to make lucid dreaming be from just a sort of random occurrence to something that I could, intentionally do on a regular basis. yeah, I started out and I had got like a spike in lucidity when I joined the forum, and then I got kind of caught up in the whole community scene and just chatting with people and talking and hanging. I hung out and off topic all the time. I was notorious for that, and I really got off track with the lucidity. But I was having fun, whatever. And then every now and then, like every few weeks, I'd just kind of think to myself, "Huh, I haven't had a lucid dream in a while." And that night, I'd have one. It was like that simple at that time in my life. It doesn't always happen now, but I remember at that time that just going completely off track from lucidity, and then just reminding myself, "Hey, whatever happened to the lucid dreaming?" And then it would happen. That was enough. Sometimes you need something a little more intense.
Okay, so yeah, our next example. So especially with these podcasts as well, me and Lisa do, it really helps us with our dry spells because we're engaging in conversation. So if you can get somebody to talk about lucid dreaming with, it will help you. I mean, even if you can't, you can listen to these podcasts and to listen to us talking about lucid dreaming. Just that having that conversation about it and going over these things in your mind and asking and answering each other's questions. Even positive support, like you can tell someone your dream and they can tell you how well you did in this dream with your awareness and everything. And I don't know if you want to talk about how your examples with this, Lisa, like when we talk, how it helps you.
Oh yeah, yeah. Whenever you and I would do our podcasts, if they'd been a couple weeks, it seems I don't know, yeah, maybe 50-50. I'd have it'd be 50-50 chance of having a lucid dream that next day. Just there again because we were talking about it so in depth. And when we do these podcasts, it forces us to think a little bit harder about rather than just saying, "Oh, if you want a lucid dream, you need to practice recall and reality checks and dream journal." No, not just blindly thinking of what you're supposed to do, but really sitting there and thinking, "Okay, these people are really wanting to know how to lucid dream. How do we, what are the questions? What are the answers? What are the solutions?" It really forces us to think really hard about it and be able to talk about it on a show. And that is oftentimes enough to, there again, put lucid dreaming in the forefront of your mind. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I had a really long dry spell, probably a couple weeks. I think my last lucid dream before the other day was one of last month's tasks of the month. So I really dropped down since my work schedule's increased recently. So my
Yeah.
hours of sleep has dropped tremendously. But having that really long podcast with Canis Lucidus the other night, and then I'm supposed to have this podcast about dry spells with you the next day, and so God, I had this great lucid dream. So I really highly recommend, you don't have to start your own podcast, but if you have a friend, a coworker, a family member, someone that you know that you can talk to about your dreams and lucid dreams and stuff, have a really good sit down with it. It really helps a lot. You'd be really surprised.
Yeah, and I mean, even if you can't physically talk to somebody, we always have the IRC chat room on DreamViews. There are always people talking in there if you go into the lucid dreaming section of the chat room. And just talk about your experiences and go over them and talk about even not just your dreams, your daily awareness and your reality checks and everything, and really get in depth in this discussion about what you do and what other people do, because as Lisa said, it really kicks your mind into gear and makes you think about it, and just that is enough to bring you back into lucidity.
And if you've joined the intro class or you hang around in chat and you've been reading around the forums and you feel like you would really benefit from a little more one-on-one attention, and there's not really anyone in your life that talks about it. I know that I've been very blessed that a lot of people in my life love to talk about lucid dreaming. They come to me to talk about lucid dreaming, but a lot of times the case is people they get very strange looks, like lobsters are crawling out of their nose when they bring up the subject of lucidity. If you find yourself in that boat and you'd like to just have a conversation with someone about it, PM anyone on staff. Dream Guide's really great to talk to about lucid dreaming. PM Jason or me or anyone in the DreamViews Academy. Just set up a time either to meet or even just have a PM conversation back and forth, or a visitor message conversation back and forth. Get that little bit of extra attention if you really want to talk the talk with someone. If you feel like that'll help you, please. We're here for that very reason. That's what we do all day, every day.
Yeah, definitely. I love hearing from people, and also if you think you have something you can add to these podcasts, you can always PM me or Lisa, and maybe if you have a microphone and Skype, you can come and talk to us about your dream experiences and whatever you think you can add to the podcast.
Definitely.
All right, so do you want to move on to the next thing we have on our list?
Okay, number 3. Try out all different kinds of techniques. When you first are starting how to lucid dream, they say, pick one technique and focus on it. Okay, that's great for starters. But if you already know how to lucid dream and you're just having a dry spell, this might be a time to just check out another technique and just see what it does. Mix things up a bit. Our minds, our nerves, our brains tend to get saturated with one way of doing things sometimes, and you need to shake things up a little bit. Just that subtle change in your brain chemistry could cause your previous technique, which worked really well, to stop working. So trying out new techniques not only combats this, but also helps you to refocus on lucid dreaming.
Yeah, definitely. This works for me really well because for whatever reason, there might be just a subtle change in your brain chemistry. Trying out a new technique can really help you refocus, as Lisa said, and get your mind really thinking about lucid dreaming again. Sometimes when you do a technique for so long, you become a bit, you don't focus on it as much. You do it really haphazardly, and doing that, you're not going to get lucid as often. So you just choose a different technique and just try it, even if you don't think you're doing it right or you're not quite sure how to do it. Just try something new, and hopefully just changing it up and rethinking about how you go about lucid dreaming, it will get you lucid again.
Now, this is very true. I relied on dialing pretty much my whole life because it's the one that happens. It can happen to you when you're a kid, whether or not you want it to, and it's one that you can increase the frequency of when you're intentionally trying to lucid dream just by increasing your awareness and writing in your dream journals, and your dials will start happening more. But I was trying to do the DEALD, the dream exit induced lucid dreaming just last year, and just through trying to get that and do that better and having a brief period of taking 5-HTP, which I don't really recommend, trying to take supplements to increase it or whatever. Through that process, I actually learned how to wild. Through that process and, talking with Jason and Sagius and other people at the DreamViews Academy, that really shook things up. Talk about a change in brain chemistry. I went from what is a wild and I don't even know how the hell you do that to, okay, all right, now I get it, because I was experimenting more with the way I sleep. I was experimenting more with wake back to bed and learning where my REM cycles were and just finding how I slept, what was personal for me, what worked best for me, and just this sort of self-discovery helped me pick a different technique, and it worked. And then I still go back to dialed. It's like I'll be doing wilding, and it'll suffer for whatever reason, and then I'll start having dials again. So yeah, changing up the technique is not forbidden at all.
Yeah, definitely, and I especially recommend trying out techniques that you might not think will work or are slightly strange, because they're so much stranger than what you're used to. It really helps you to think about it and how you're going to go about it. Anyway, I think we should move on now to our next topic, which is returning to lucid dreaming after a break, which is somewhat close to my heart because of my life schedule. I took a break from lucid dreaming for a while, so we're going to go into how to get started back into lucid dreaming once you've had a break for maybe a couple of months or whatever. And so, do you want to talk about how someone would get started back into lucid dreaming?
Sure. Yeah. First of all, you want to try to identify if something major in your life has changed. While it is normal to spike and dip in terms of lucid activity, there may be something specific in your life that's causing a drop in the frequency of lucid dreams, something that you need to address. When you were previously lucid dreaming, your life schedule may have been very different to the one you have now. So you need to reassess that and figure out what would be the correct techniques for you to do right now. It's often the case that your previous techniques aren't going to be as effective.
Yes, definitely. Again, it's close to my heart because I didn't lucid dream for a few months, and as I'm coming back into it, I'm realizing that a lot of the things I did aren't quite working the same as they used to. I used to wake back to bed like really early in the morning, and I would be able to have a lucid dream right after that. But because of my new life schedule now, as Elisa said, you need to identify if something major has changed, which for me is my sleeping schedule. So my wake back to beds need to change and adjust to that, and I can't wild now as well as I used to be able to, because I don't have that sort of relaxed mind and focus because so much is going on. So for me right now, like diodes and diodes are very good. So yeah, you just need to go over what's happening and what you can do to accommodate lucid dreaming into that schedule.
Yeah, I'll say changing in sleep pattern is probably one of the most common things that happens that changes your lucid frequency. And I have to apologize right now if you can hear there's somebody with really loud woofers or something in their truck outside my house. So I hope that doesn't get
I don't
picked
think
up.
we can hear anything.
Okay,
so it's
good.
fine.
It's like shaking my entire house. But anyway, yeah, a change in sleep schedule. It's actually was the same problem that I had. So I went from working just a couple days a week and I have 4 days off where I send the kid off to school. I could sleep in as late as I want and wild to my heart's content. And then I suddenly went right back into 5 days a week, and then my 2 days off wouldn't be right next to each other. And I really got dependent on that, kind of having that nice long couple days, 2, 3, 4 days in a row where I could sleep exactly how I'm very sleep sensitive, and I'd like to change that. Maybe that's a scheme I've got going on, and I can, there's plenty of people who lucid dream who have a very strict schedule, so I should figure out how to do that. But yeah, just sleep.
Yeah.
You can't lucid dream unless you sleep. So you need to figure out how much sleep you need and try and get that. And if you can't, then I don't know, nap or try another technique or something.
So you need to understand your new life schedule if you have one, and then balance lucid dreaming around that. So maybe it's work, or you've had a baby, or you're staying up late for whatever reason. So an abrupt change in sleep can vastly reduce your ability to attain lucidity for long periods of time, especially if you're doing drugs or alcohol, or you've changed your diet. Maybe something in your diet was helping your lucidity, or something in your diet now is killing your lucidity. You need to work out what's changed to cause the fact that you're not becoming lucid anymore.
Yeah, even if you've got an illness, hopefully that's not the case often at all. But if you had any kind of new medical issues arise, and then any kind of prescription drug treatment that you're doing, something you could even ask your doctor if you're taking a medication that's hindering your sleep, for example. See if there's a different one that you could take that isn't going to mess with your sleep, and not just for in terms of lucidity, but just we tend to be happier people in the day if we get the proper amount of sleep at night. So anything medical that's going on that can be changed so that you can sleep better, you're going to lucid dream better.
I think that's the benefit of lucid dreaming as well, because you can really focus on getting a good night's sleep, which is all around better, and the benefit is that you can become lucid as well if you're focusing on that.
Definitely.
I mean, a lot of people seem to focus on lucid dreaming, and then they forget that they need to make their sleep better before they start lucid dreaming. So a good place to start if you're coming back to lucid dreaming is making sure your sleep is perfect, and or as best as it can be in your schedule. And even if you can't get a full night's sleep, or something keeps waking you up like a baby or whatever, maybe find some way that you can get a sort of undisturbed nap in. Lucidity comes quite easy when you can actually get into a nap, because you already have that awareness, and it's sort of like having a wake back to bed in the middle of the day.
Yeah, it is. Actually, I had lucid dreams when I was a child, and they stopped for a long time. This is something that's happened with a lot of people that a lot of people report, and then they grow up and they're like, hey, oh yeah, I saw Inception, and I want to get back. I used to do that when I was a kid. I want to get back into that. And then they find a forum like DreamViews about it, and they start getting into it again. That's what happened to me. And after I had my son, I wasn't working for about a year, so I had all this time to sleep. But at the same time, it's like at night I was getting woken up by him, many times. So when it was time to get up for the day, I was so tired. But And fortunately, he was taking 2 or 3 2-hour naps per day, and that's when my naps were. And I started lucid dreaming again like crazy. It really is like a long wake back to bed, because you have that perfect balance of you're really tired, but you're aware because you've been up and moving around doing stuff, piddling around or whatever. You need that nice little sweet spot that we've mentioned before of awareness and sleepiness, so you can kind of slip into your REM cycle, but have enough day residue to kind of work in there. And I did a lot, like some of my best dials were during those naps when Chris was little. It was really great. I'm glad that happened, because that really encouraged me and helped me keep at it, and I'm still doing it today.
You just need to really focus on getting that first lucid dream, because once you get back into it and you realize that you actually can become lucid again, it really spikes your motivation, and that's all it comes down to, really. You need to have the motivation. Okay, so we're going to talk now about staying lucid in a busy lifestyle. We've already touched on this slightly, but we're going to go more in depth now, like what causes lucidity when your life is busy or stressful. There are a lot of things that cause it, but it doesn't have to stay this way. So sometimes you just need a period of time to adjust. So if your life has just recently got busy, like maybe your work schedule has changed, or again a baby has come, or whatever it is, sometimes it just takes your body and mind a few weeks to adjust to this new schedule and your sleep to reorder itself. So if you're not becoming lucid for maybe a few weeks, don't stress about it, because that's just going to add on to your life's stresses, which aren't going to help your lucidity at all. So if you can get more sleep in, then that would be a good thing. But obviously, it doesn't matter too much if you can't. You can nap, as we mentioned, or it could be something else holding you back from lucidity. You can just maybe get a bedtime routine sorted. Taking time to do this can not only help you relax before bed after a stressful day, but it will make whatever hours you sleep you get more efficient.
Yeah, definitely. I know that, like I said, my work schedule changing has been a major factor in killing my lucidity, unfortunately, and I haven't really figured out a way to maximize my sleep to get it to change. So I'm still kind of hoping that I will gradually adjust to it, and I don't know if I ever will, in terms of, my body just loves lots and lots and lots of sleep. I've always been this way. My mom is the same way, and my brother is the same way, and they lucid dream too. We're just sleepaholics. I don't know what the deal is, but we need a lot of sleep. I guess that's what we need, to really sleep a lot to get into those really juicy, big REM cycles. Because what happens with us is we'll sleep like maybe 10 hours or so, and that big lucid dream, or the dream exit lucid dreams that my mom and brother all report doing a lot, happen really, really late in those 10 hours. It's like the last thing we do before we get up. There might be a wake back to bed, in there somewhere, but the point is we need that amount of sleep to do it. So if we can't, adjust to 6 or 7 or 8 hours of sleep and get that same kind of dealed or wild or whatever, then try and schedule your 2 days off in a row. I know that lately I've been getting Tuesday and Wednesday off together, which has been really great. That's really helped a lot. But even if you can't do that, then this might be an example of when you need to do that super intense lucid saturation on a regular basis. Hop on DreamViews, start reading journals, talk to someone. Really, the less sleep you get, then the more you need to really get lucidity on your mind, and hopefully that will be enough to temper the lack of hours of sleep.
Or maybe even like when your life is busy, say you have a week busy and then your weekend is free, don't even focus on lucid dreaming too much during that week, because it's just going to stress you out.
Yeah.
So maybe just read a few dream journals, maybe as you go to bed, read your old dreams. And then when it comes up to the weekend, you can really start going full force on your lucid dreaming. And hopefully that week of preparation beforehand is enough to really kick you into gear on those days that you're free. Okay, so best practices for making sure you get as many lucid dreams as possible despite this. We've already mentioned that when you go to bed, you don't want to be stressed out. Many people find it useful to have 2 journals, or maybe even just one, with different pages. So you can write down your dreams, but also to write down what happened during the day and things to remember for the day following. So this can get all the things that are stressing you off your mind, and when you go to sleep you can just purely be focusing on lucid dreaming, because if you're thinking about anything else, then your dreams are going to take on that form. I don't know if you have anything to add to this, Lisa.
Well, no, I did. That's okay. I was actually looking up something for the outro real quick, but we will get to that in a minute. I do like the idea of a nighttime routine when you really have a stressful life schedule, because you take the time to wind down. You can do that day journal to get the stressful thoughts of the day out of your mind. It's like, okay, the day is done. That can leave now. Now I just want to focus on just having a nice night of sleep, and getting as many hours of sleep as possible. Like Jason said, when if you're working 5 days in a row like I do now, it's not really helpful to focus on lucidity that much if you really feel like that you need more sleep. Just focus on getting a good amount of sleep, so that when you do have your 2 days off, you're not so sleep deprived that you just conk out and go into a coma. That's happened to me before too, where I was so sleep deprived that my 2 days off were spent. It felt like I was just recovering, my sleep, and I didn't even remember any dreams, much less have a chance at being lucid. So, treat yourself well during your 5 days of work, and then your 2 days off can be a vacation during the day and during the night in terms of lucidity. So I really highly, what we'll do is when we post this podcast, I think I'm going to go ahead and reiterate that the link to your nighttime routine tutorial, because I think it's really, really helpful.
I was just going to mention that I've got a nighttime routine tutorial on the forum where I talk about how it's useful to, again, write down these stressful things, and before you even go to sleep, just sit up in bed or something and focus on maybe a previous dream you had, and close your eyes and really get yourself in that dream scene. But don't let yourself drift off to sleep at this point, because you just really want to prepare your mind. And then when you go to sleep, you can stop thinking about it, and hopefully setting up all that beforehand is enough to get you lucid during the night. Okay, so unless there's anything else you want to add now, I think we'll go ahead and sign off with our outro.
Yeah, no, I think we covered it pretty well. I wanted to go ahead and mention again the DreamViews podcast question and answers that we've started recently. It was our first one was posted today. It's in the DreamViews podcast subforum. It's what we were trying to do with this, and I mentioned it in there, of course, was getting kind of that radio show feel where you have live questions come in, and then have a couple either staff members or DreamViews Academy members answer the questions. And since it's very difficult to get it's hard to get everybody in a group together at the same time and record it all live. So we've just been getting people to submit their questions on Vocaroo, or however you're able to submit a question in MP3 format or some kind of sound audio format. Just get your question to us. Don't worry about if you think it's like a newbie question. Most of the newbie questions are the best questions. They're basic questions that can help you attain lucidity. So send us your questions, and if you don't want to post it in the podcast subform, just you can PM it to me or Conus Lucidus or RareCola or PageAmps, and then we'll post answers and discuss them. We'll discuss the questions, and I think the first one came out really well. You can check it out, and I think that's all I got to say about that.
Well, in case anybody doesn't know where to find these podcasts, you can go to dreamviews.com and scroll down to the Lucid Dreaming section, and under General Lucid Dreaming you can find our DreamViews podcast subforum. And in there, this one that Lisa was just talking about is the DreamViews podcast Q&A episode 1, where they talk about dream blindness, teleportation, and light sleepers.
If you want the exact URL, it is www.dreamviews.com/dreamviews-podcast.
Very professional.
Thank you. I learned that from you.
Okay, so do you want to talk about the Start Here section that's recently been added to the website as well?
I would. We've got a great group of staff going on right now who are really great at kind of this forum's been around for 9 years now. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So it's going on 10. Um, and there's a lot of stuff just kind of scattered all around. And one of our moderators, Gab, she's really great at just kind of organizing stuff. She came up with the idea for a Start Here forum, have a welcome section and have the introduction zone there, and then our sort of DreamViews recommended induction methods and techniques all in the same place, right under the DreamViews forum heading. And so what that does is that gives people a starting place, because there's so much stuff. There's so many forums and subforums. Some of them are necessary and some of them are still just kind of scattered about here and there, which we're kind of doing a big cleanup right now. That gives you a place to start, because if you go to welcome, there's the happy little welcome message from me, but it also links you to there's useful links, tutorials and articles and all that stuff, and then where to start. So you have an idea. Okay, I can post a dream journal, or I can start out at DreamViews Academy. I can find all the information I need. It's all this kind of in this just one section, and it kind of helps you from just being lost, because I think if I joined now for the first time, I'd be completely lost if it wasn't for the Start Here section. But
there are things all over the place, and it's really nice to find it all just in that one thread.
Exactly. And since it's not really, the tabs at the top, we're going to work into getting that up in there as well. But the tabs that are at the top of the page don't really take you to like an introduction zone or anything. So it's not always really, really clear. I mean, it's clear to me because I've been here so much. I know where everything is, but I try and remember what things are like from the perspective of someone coming in for the first time, or a returning member, who's used to different form software we might have had and know where everything is, and now it's different. But my favorite part about this is, Start Here section is the induction methods and techniques that, which is obviously the most important thing you want when you're trying to learn how to lucid dream outside of sleep itself. But the current staff has gone through all of the current and old methods, techniques, articles, and we've taken the best of the best of the best and put them in here, edited and just put them all in one spot. And the techniques themselves are kind of in these locked sticky threads at the top, but then below it there are discussion threads about those specific tutorials. So you can read about the tutorial and be like, okay, I read Wild, okay, I get what it is, and then you can go down and you can discuss Wild. Sagius is really big on Wilds, and so is Gab, and they're in there all the time, and you can ask questions like, okay, I didn't understand what that was, and they're there all the time to answer it, and it's a really great interactive forum there for beginners or people who are just trying to freshen up on lucid dreaming.
Yeah, definitely. They worked really hard on these tutorials, and I think they're some of the best on the forum. So if you haven't seen them yet, I'd definitely recommend going to check them out. And they're very easy to find, just at the top of the forum in the big Start Here section. Induction methods and techniques, and they've got mild, dealed, wild, and dialed, and of course dream control.
Yeah, it's still an ongoing project. We're going to add more stuff, as necessary, and continue editing tutorials and things like that. But we've got the gist of it is there, and anytime you've got any questions, you can ask in the induction technique discussion threads, or PM me. PM anyone on staff. Gab is on it. Melanie B. They're there every day to answer your questions about lucid dreaming. So yeah, check it out.
Okay, so I think that's all for this podcast. Again, make sure you go check out the latest Q&A podcast with Kenneth Lucidus and our very own OpheliaBlue. And hopefully we shall see you soon with our next episode.
Yes, and please feel free to, we say this all the time, but I want to end it with this. PM us if you have an idea for a podcast. If you have a question, we'd be more than happy to cover it on a podcast for you.
Of course, we always want your opinions, and whatever you think you can add to the podcast, don't hesitate to post it in one of the threads or PM me or Lisa, and we'll definitely take it into consideration and hopefully merge it into an episode sometime.
Definitely.
Okay, so I think that's all for today. Hopefully you enjoyed this episode, and bye bye everybody.
Sweet LDs, y'all.